Good morning, beautiful beings, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you watch this. I'm Dr. Lisa, and welcome to Thursday, Thoughtful Thursday. Just a little reset experience. I'm gifting and contributing to the world, to you, to whoever wishes to witness and watch, and hopefully this will be a contribution to you. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my books, Creating After Abuse. It's been a book week. I've been talking about them a lot. And there's a lot of great content in here. Even if I say so myself, I want to read something to you from Creating After Abuse, and it's called The Invisible Porcupine. Do you ever find yourself getting prickly when someone comes towards you? One of the major signs of defending is what I call being the invisible porcupine. At some point in your life, perhaps the world wasn't safe for you. So you created quills, if you will, in an attempt to protect yourself. When you were younger, you probably hoped on some level that the quills would keep your abuser away. There is a reason why I'm talking about abuse, since it is called Creating After Abuse. To keep your abuser away, or just to keep you safe in the relationship. Now, when I say abuse, some people think about sexual abuse. When I say abuse, I think about sexual, physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, energetic, physiological. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There's so many forms of abuse. Unfortunately, in the modern world, and fortunately, there are so many tools. And it's really like a common conversation now. Thank goodness, in a certain way. So let's go back to the invisible porcupine and the quills. This is on page, at least in my book, it's on page 20. Okay, so if you have this book or want to download it or listen to it ebook wise, read it ebook wise, read it hard copy wise. I'm still a very hard copy person. But I really wish I could upgrade myself to reading books online. I buy them all the time, and I have stacks of them in my audiobook library. I just only listen sometimes when I'm driving or on a plane or something like that. Okay, back to the quills. Now your quills, though, may not have kept your abuser away or the abuse situation at bay. What it does now is keeps love, money, everything else at a safe distance. So when you energetically put those quills out as a protection, the universe, let's just say, and energy doesn't quite understand that you're just trying to protect yourself from like this one person or this one situation. It actually protects you from everything. There's no discernment when you create these subconscious protection laws within your own psyche. Even though you've created them to protect you, which was a great idea, they generally end up causing you to twist or to distrust what's right in front of you. The invisible porcupine phenomenon means being on guard and hypervigilant externally and internally, which can easily create some sort of exhaustion, as well as an adrenal disorder or autoimmune disorder. When I wrote this book, it was literally because client after client that I was working with every single day came in with some sort of exhaustion or adrenal disorder or autoimmune disorder. And 80% of the people at the time when I was writing this book were predominantly women and moms, high managerial positions in the corporate world, not just the corporate world, but that's what was going on at the time. And so it created a lot of conflict for them personally. Even though you externalize the invisible porcupine and it often shows up as defending, you may also find yourself internalizing it. These quills can turn inward to penetrate your goodness, your kindness, your generosity of spirit, and your gratitude. This leads to further outward expressions of cynicism, along with depression, anxiety, psychological issues, health issues, financial issues. Even though the porcupine defense started out working for you when you were younger, later in life it becomes ingrained as a programmed or conditioned response system that actually serves to block you from living your dream. And really, this is the crux of what I'm trying to get across in this book, is a lot of the ways that you as an adult and we as an adult put ourselves out there in the world and interact with the world are literally based on our formative years and what we've decided. That's not so much here in your conscious mind. It's like the computer programs that keep us online connected together, that's running in the back of your brain. And so whenever you feel or smell or taste or sound, something sounds like the exact event from 40 years ago or something, your body, physiologically, energetically, the neural net pathways, the routes in your brain, the cellular memory kick in and go, oh, safety, not safe, safe or not safe, safe or not safe, probably not safe. Oh, let's kick in that defense mechanism. Oh, this would be a good time to put on my invisible porcupine and have those quills pointing outward. So anybody that comes near me can't touch me because I don't want to feel that way again. But like I said, it doesn't have any discernment when you're an adult. As a kid, it might have a little bit of discernment because it's not quite a pattern yet. It's starting to become a habit, and then it will become a pattern. But it doesn't differentiate as you get older to like, oh, that's just for personal relationship, or that's just for in relation to my mother. What it actually does is it projects on everything. So everywhere in your adult life that you're seemingly feeling unsafe, excuse me, my earpiece is falling out. Everywhere in your life that you're seemingly feeling unsafe, it just institutes the invisible porcupine. And it was funny because not funny, but it's interesting because I was doing a couple session the other day, and we were working in this couple session about getting one of the partners to realize their impact on the other partner, which they had no real idea that they were garnering a sense of disempowerment and disrespect and a little bit of gaslighting and whatnot. And it was a very courageous session, both of these beautiful beings in the session. And we were able to get the party and both of them to really see that this is a very difficult dynamic in their relationship, and it doesn't breed intimacy and it doesn't breed safety or trust, and for two very different reasons in this relationship. For the man it was one thing, and for the woman it was another thing, but they come together on the same thing from the past in the present, and it doesn't build trust or intimacy. And that's what they're going to couples therapies for. So you have to kind of backtrack a little bit and find out how you're being an invisible porcupine, how you're using those quills to protect yourself. But it's like a double-edged sword because it hits the people, places, circumstances, and events that's around you. And a lot of time when people feel that from you, they're like, let's stay away. Now, maybe that's good, but if you're trying to get investors in your company, not so good if they're going to stay away. If you're trying to, let's say, get your body healthy and you know that you're, let's say, gluten intolerant, and you're like, just screw it, I'm going to have that pizza. Not really going to do well for your body. So it's so interesting to me, and hopefully to you, that when you actually lean in and start looking at your own dynamics, especially if you've experienced some sort of abuse in your youth, let alone in the present, to look at the patterns and the habits and the ways that you survive that look like, seem like you've moved through it and you found a way to resolve it. But actually, what you're doing is recapitulating the trauma by allowing the invisible porcupine to keep you safe when it's no longer relevant in your world. It doesn't mean, though, when I say that it's not relevant in your body. That's the difference. That's a discernment. It is relevant what you feel, but just because we feel something doesn't mean that's happening in the moment. It could just be a trigger. Your triggers are your data. Okay, let's go back to this. I want to also, there's a journal exercise in the back called Choosing Differently. And I love this because it's on page 111, 111, one of my favorite numbers. Have you ever seen the movie Groundhog Day, where the main character Bill Murray, lives the same day over and over and over again? How have you been living the same day over and over and over again as the invisible porcupine? What would it take for you to choose beyond that? The reason why I ask a question in my books during some of these journal exercises is like, what would it take for you to choose beyond that? Because I want to actually, this is what helped me heal and continue to heal, is ask questions like, how is this benefiting me? What am I getting from this? Why do I want to keep waking up with the same thoughts spinning in my head? Why do I want to have the same pattern repeat over and over and over again with money, with relationships, with my body, with food, with business? Why? And what would it take to choose differently? If you don't ask yourself those questions and get honest, open, and willing, the how of it, honest, open, and willing, you'll never change. And you'll just be a complainer. And when you complain, you remain. And when you praise and look for the possibilities, you raise up your energy. Part of moving beyond your invisible cage of abuse, which is where the invisible porcupine syndrome started, you had to cage yourself and then create the quills to protect yourself. Also that you weren't hurt. But the cruel joke is that you're still being hurt. And that's what creating after abuse is all about. How can I stop hurting myself? Part of moving beyond the cage of abuse is the discovery that you are actually more than your abuse. There is a you separate from the abuse and separate from the abuser. There is a you beyond anything that has ever happened to you. And it is a choice to go beyond anything that you've decided because of it. It's a choice to actually say, okay, I do deserve love, even if my brain is saying, oh, Lisa, you're so stupid. You're so this, you're so this. Why did you do that again? Yeah. Lovely thoughts in our heads, right? I remember there's a beautiful tagline that Maria Shriver's Mosh bars have. Be kind to your mind. I bought one of those hats for everybody in my family. Yes, I love the Mosh bars too. However, that tagline, be kind to your mind, I don't care whether they wear it or not. But I know as every time they see it, they might think, oh yeah, be kind. I need to be kind to myself. I need my mind to be kind, and I need to be kind to my mind, and I need to check my mind before it wrecks me. Because a lot of times our mind spins out of control in negative thoughts, and then those negative thoughts become the truth, and then the truth becomes your narrative, and then the narrative becomes your story, and then your story becomes your body, and then your body becomes your patterns, and then you start acting and reacting and living in that pattern. And all the while you're like recapitulating your trauma, but you think you're changing. Hello, denial. Don't even know I am lying. If I had to say what the purpose of all of my books were, is to face the way that we lie to ourselves based on the experiences we have had. And abuse is really easy. It's understandable. It's normal that you would become what you think you are because you experienced abuse. But it's actually not true. Because you experienced abuse doesn't mean you are that abuse. But there is no discernment in our cellular memory when something like that is happening and it's locked into our bodies until you actually lean in and uncover the invisible porcupine syndrome that is spinning around you in Groundhog Day. Watch the movie. I remember when I first watched it, I was like, I am going to throw that alarm clock out the window, smash it and break it. And that was only data for me about the realization that there were some things in my life that I was living over and over and over and over and over again. It's like that saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I don't want you to live the same way over and over again. And even if you don't want to, I don't want you to. Not that it's any of my business, but that's what I emulate every single day. Just because I came from the first 23 years of my life mired in physical, sexual, emotional, domestic, psychological, physiological, energetic, and spiritual abuse, it doesn't mean I have to be one of those abuses as a person. And for a while, certainly in my 20s, I thought I was those abuses. I became those abuses. I thought of myself and the world and people and situations from exactly what I'm talking to you about. Was it because I'm evil and there's something characterologically wrong with me? No. Did I think that at the time? Yes. But it was not true until I put myself through some more rigorous psychological rewiring, leading to the body of work that I'm continuing to do today. You can too. My point in talking about my story is not my story. My point is saying and kind of showing, hopefully showing, that there is a way out, even if you feel right now that there isn't. There is. Look for the 1 degree shift, the 1 degree of possibility. And that starts with your awareness. I'll never forget yesterday's moment in the session with this couple where the gentleman had this epiphany. And it was really, really heated. I didn't think we were going to get there. And the epiphany brought emotion and tears. And then that epiphany in watching her spouse see what he was doing allowed her to drop in and be emotional, not just out of fear, but out of safety, and be like, oh, okay, there's hope here. And that was literally her word. Can you imagine in your own relationship with yourself, if you're not in relationship with another, to have that epiphany moment of dropping in and leaning in and coming out, facing something so dark and so scary, and then having hope? That's what I wish for everybody. That's what will save us all personally. And I'm a firm believer that when we change ourselves, everybody in our wake gets the benefit of that as well. So let's get back to this exercise of choosing differently. Hopefully, there's 7 steps I've written here on page 111 that will support you in the process of defining your own reality as distinct and separate. Each step is a point of light, or could be a point of light in your own awareness that gives you more choices as you move along the journey to liberate yourself. I always say to people in my sessions and to couples and to myself too, would you rather be right or would you rather be free? Believe you me, there are at least 90% of people that would rather be right. Fortunately, there are more people now that just want to be free. And that's where I am. And that's what I want for you too. I choose freedom, truth, joy, authenticity, expression, liberation, happiness, calmness, peace, tranquility, fun, joy, effortless, kindness, compassion, courage, wisdom, bravery. I can go on and on and on. There's so much more when you wish for freedom for yourself versus being right. Right is finite, freedom is infinite. Step 1, acknowledge your cage and acknowledge the fact that it isn't working for you. And what I mean by the cage, if you've never heard me talk about this before, it's called the cage of abuse. That is locked in with bars. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ROAR method tomorrow on Frequency Friday. So join us for that, if you will. The cage of abuse has 4 bars: denying, defending, dissociating, and disconnecting. And those bars are around you. Within those bars is the you think you were based on the abuse that you are surviving. Notice how I say surviving, not thriving. And on your ankles are like a ball and chain holding you in that cage, immovable, if you will. And no one likes to exist like that, but so many people exist like that. And when you're stuck behind the bars of denying, defending, dissociating, and disconnecting, and you can't move like any caged animal, you'd want to escape. But because you're in a body, you can't leave. So what you do is you energetically leave. And that energetic leaving is a soul loss. And that's where you wake up, or you've heard people say, I just don't feel like myself. I have no energy. Yes, this could be other things too, like sicknesses and things like that, which are very common correlation with what I'm talking about. However, it's just like you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't even look like myself. You wake up and walk around and you're like, I don't even feel like myself. You look outside and like, oh, that kind of looks scary. I don't want to go there. Or there's no joy. There's no joie de vivre. It's more like limit, 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 smaller, 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 smaller. That's the cage of abuse. So that's what I'm talking about. So step 1, acknowledge your cage and acknowledge the fact that it isn't working for you. Step 2, choose to look at your cage instead of denying it or defending it. What I mean by that, like we did yesterday in this couples session, is just like lean in to what's being reflected back to you. If it's not a therapist reflecting it back to you, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your children, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your body as you jump on the scale, maybe it's your doctor telling you something. Like lean in and look instead of like, well, that's not me. Oh, no, that's not. No, 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 no. Porcupine, porcupine, porcupine. How about you just take a breath and be like, oh, what's true about that I'm not getting? Just a question. Step 3, make a choice to release it. Decide that you are going to change it. Literally, this ends now. I'm going to change this, and here's how I'm going to start. Just take a 1 degree step, 1 moment. Asking a question is a 1 degree shift. Step 4, get the support and share your story. Remember, this is different from sharing the pain. Instead, find someone that empowers you and who you can share it with. When I say get support and share your story, I'm not saying pull somebody in your family to triangulate about the person you're too afraid to tell the truth to. Most people do think that that's what that means. Share your story. Go to a coffee shop and bitch about, excuse my language, about everything and everyone, and get everybody listening to you to align with your point of view. That's not freedom. That's wanting to be right. And generally, when you want to be right like that, you're missing something. And I know this very, 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 very intimately, very intimately. I remember when I first had the inkling that I might have that 1 degree, or it might be one of those 1% of the population that has an allergy when alcohol passes my lips and enters into my body. Because truth be told, I really did enjoy a nice martini or a glass of champagne. I enjoyed it a little too much. What I didn't know at the time was that I was enjoying it a little too much. I didn't know that everybody didn't think when a bottle of wine came to a table that I didn't know that everybody didn't count the glasses that a bottle could fill. And that everybody didn't order 3 or 4 more so that they, meaning me, could have a couple of drinks. I didn't know that that was abnormal at the time, 25 something years ago. I know that that is literally part of the problem. So my only defense against that 1% population that I cannot digest alcohol the same way other people can, I know now it just doesn't go past my lips, and I have complete control of my senses, my experiences, my body, my being, my choices, my feelings, and all of that. But many, many years ago, decades ago, I didn't know that. Denial. So I got a little off track with that, but there you go, a little bit of something about me. With support, you can start to build the awareness within you. Step 5, connect with your creative capacity by remembering or imagining what it was like before you were abused. There was and is something magical about you that's overlaid with the story of abuse. This is the key. Once I work with anybody in trauma recovery, let's say, you never know when you get to that point, but it always goes back to the person remembering who they were. Because the abuse is dealt with. And once the abuse is dealt with, then the person can start to see who they really were, who they really are, and that even though it felt during those years living in and under the trauma, it felt like you lost yourself. The reality is the trauma was just on top of you. And it did change your experience, but you get to a point in the recovery part where you can actually remember who you are before the abuse. And then when you learn that that is still intact, waterworks brings tears to my heart right now. I can start crying because I can't tell you how many people and myself that I have facilitated all around the world, not just in English either. Right now, my mind is seeing Istanbul and Germany and all these other countries, Mexico, that I've been to and facilitated people to this very moment where they realize that they've been living in the cage and that what they took on as themselves had nothing to do with them. And then as we retrieve those fragments and heal those parts, then the real them shines through again. And that is just a sacred moment. And that's the really cruel joke about abuse, is that it really does change your perception of yourself, where it literally makes you feel so far away from who you were. And the cruel joke is it feels true because it is true, but it's also not the truth. Okay? There is always something magical. There's something I used to say in my the Roar coursework. You can feel broken, but the being you are can never be broken, no matter what occurs. You can feel it, you can act like it, you can live it, and you have a right to those feelings as you work through your own process in your own time, in your own journey, in your own way. But remember this, even if it's just for hearing my words and you don't believe it right now. If you're still here, you're not broken. You just feel broken. Step 6, be willing to unleash your brilliance. Risk taking the leap into new areas, projects, and ways of being. What does that mean? That can be kind of scary, but again, just a 1-degree shift. Be willing to unleash your brilliance. And what that means is be willing to remember that you have a choice and that you have choice. That is what is intrinsic to all of us. We are here having a human experience, and we've come from the spiritual world into the physical world, having this human experience, but we're still spiritual beings. We're still a soul. We're not just the body. There is a brilliance in you no matter what has occurred in your life. Never let that go. And truthfully, it's only a choice to let it go. And it's a feeling to believe that it's gone based on the choice. But if you go deeper in the trauma recovery, you will connect with your intrinsic soul print, goodness and brilliance, and the childlike innocence deep within you, which is God. It never goes away. You're always a child of whatever it is you call God, the God of your understanding. And I'm not talking religiously. Step 7, be you, raw, real, uncut, uncensored. Here you live beyond your story, beyond your past, beyond your reality. Take some time, because when you've had abuse, you view the world like this. And as you work with, let's say, a trauma recovery specialist, you start to see the reality, and the trauma starts to dissipate. And then it feels a little risque, it feels a little vulnerable. Those invisible quills might come up, and you might want to poke and prod and isolate and stay away. But eventually, 1 degree at a time, you build up the inner empowerment and the inner trust and the inner courage and the inner compassion and the inner kindness and the inner awareness and the inner truth to change the interruption in your neural net pathways that occurred through the trauma by seeing truth. Once this is off you. If you're struggling with any kind of abuse right now, please feel free to download a copy of this. Buy one if you'd like, if you're a hard copy person. I'm just saying, I don't care what you do. It's like 99 cents if you download it. Audible credits. My only point is that this may have been written for you without you knowing it. And that's my gift to you. And I hope it brings you some freedom, because just like for myself, there was a certain point where I got so tired of feeling the way I was feeling underneath the first 23 years of my life, mired in abuse, that I just made a decision that this is going to change now. It was no different that when I said and demanded of the universe and whatever I believe God is. I said, God, if you want me to travel around the world and do all these things, especially if it's something like a 16-hour flight somewhere, I demanded that I was going to be able to lie flat on a plane so that at least I could sleep and be somewhat recharged by the time I got there, so that I could do this important work, but do it with the energy as if I was living in my own house, getting a beautiful night's rest and ready to greet the day. And I had a demand. I said, you want me to do this? This is what I need. It's the same thing. No matter what and where you feel disempowered, there is still at least 1 degree inside of you that can say, I'm going to choose something different now, just because I can. Because remember, if you're here, you have free will, and free will is universal law. And if you don't know, there are guardians of this planet. It's called the red hats and the white hats that are here just to help you and help all of us honor this universal truth called free will, free agency, co-creation. It is your right. Use it. All right, my friends. And I'll leave you with this on Thoughtful Thursday. The being you are can never be broken. I'll see you tomorrow for Frequency Friday. Bye for now. And please, if any of this contributed to you, or you want to ask a question, or you want to share something, I'd love to know. I just love to know. I'd love to hear how this stuff is hitting you. And I don't mean hitting you. I mean like just your experience of it. It's good feedback for me. It's good feedback so I can know what you're responding to and why. Why do I care? I just do. There's no real why. I just do. This is me. Okay, my friends. Bye for now.